We have some sad news to report tonight. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has died. She passed away this evening, surrounded by her family at her home in Washington, D.C. A statement from the Supreme Court says she died due to complications from pancreatic cancer. Ginsburg was 87 years old. She was the second woman to be appointed to the court, and she served more than 27 years. John Micek joins me now, editor-in-chief of the Pennsylvania Capital Star. John, appreciate you giving us your time. I want to first get your impressions here on the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So many people are speechless right now in terms of the incredible legacy this woman is leaving behind.
Yeah, and you will find me as one of them. I am, like the rest of the nation, processing this news right now. It is only now breaking across American television screens and cell phones across the country. I mean, it's a towering loss. There's no other way to describe it, Andrew. I mean, you put your finger at 27 years on the court. There is no piece of American jurisprudence over the last 3 decades that Ruth Bader Ginsburg does not have her fingerprints on in some way. From marriage equality to shoring up access to abortion, to education, to LGBTQ rights. Justice Bader Ginsburg was integral to all of those decisions. She's an icon to American progressives for being a feminist, for being a champion of equality. And certainly there's a great gulf that's been and a tremendous loss for a family and for a nation tonight.
Yeah, certainly. And as you say, the news just coming in here, this is Chief Justice John Roberts in reacting to the news saying, "We at the Supreme Court have lost a cherished colleague. Today we mourn, but with confidence that future generations will remember Ruth Bader Ginsburg as we knew her, a tired and resolute champion of justice." So many people, again, processing this. I've got another quote that I found here just in my quick research.
Sure.
Days before she passed away, we understand she dictated a statement to her granddaughter, her granddaughter being Clara Spera. And this is what she wrote, and I want to get your impressions here. Quote, "My most fervent wish is that I will not be replaced until a new president is installed."
Let's pray for the sake of the nation that's right. That was one of the first things I thought about when I heard this news. I flashed back to 2016 when the Obama administration was trying to get Judge Merrick Garland appointed to the court. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell holding up that appointment, saying that the Senate couldn't act until after the election. And of course, we all know what happened then. President Trump won, and we had 2 conservative justices installed on the court. One suspects that Senator McConnell will not adhere to such niceties now, and perhaps try to just ignore all of that history and ram through some appointee from the Federalist Society, the very conservative American legal organization that's provided the administration with all of its nominees to the high court and to the federal bench over these last 3.5 years. And that will open a political battle royale in the United States Senate if that is the course that Senator McConnell chooses to go down.
Let's bring in Michael Fauntroy into the conversation, Associate Political Science Professor at Howard University. Michael, thanks for giving us your time, your reaction to a tragic loss here.
Tragic is sadly the right word. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a giant in American legal jurisprudence. She was part of that first wave of women who were admitted to American law schools and were making their way to push for the inclusion of women into American legal society and society in general. And so her loss, her transition, reminds us that while so much has been done to improve the lives of women in the United States, and I think that's clearly the case, and I'm reminded that we're just past the centennial anniversary of the 19th Amendment, which granted women the right to vote, there's still so much more that needs to be done. And unfortunately, and I heard just a moment ago your guest, and I agree, and would add that her transition now raises the Supreme Court to at least as equal an issue in this current election as coronavirus, if not more so. And that's really going to upend this race. And I also believe there's no question, given what we understand about Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, that he's going to try to confirm somebody, perhaps even before the election.
Michael, how do you think Americans are going to react to this, and knowing her strong voice for, as you say, women's rights, justice for all, changing the dial on what she's seeing happening here? As you mentioned there, of course, we're less than 2 months away from an election year. How is this going to resonate with Americans as they're thinking of, who they're going to be voting for heading to the polls?
Right. So there are two different parts to this. While Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a giant in American law, and people who understand that space, even peripherally, will recognize her laws. But quite frankly, I think rank-and-file Americans don't really understand all that she did for the country and all that she pushed for to open doors for people all over America. And so in that regard, I think, unfortunately, she's not going to be remembered as she should by the general public. But I think more people will recognize the importance of this in terms of being an opening on the Supreme Court. And, I got to tell you, there are probably some people who are on the fence about President Trump, but have been happy with his judicial appointments. And this may bring them closer to him. And on the other side of that, there are going to be people who are going to understand that this is going to be a significant issue over the course of the next 4 years, and will govern themselves accordingly.
John, what do you think about all of this? And again, as we know, as we lead into this election here, and how this is going to resonate with Americans?
I think the good professor's analysis is absolutely spot on. Angie, this is now catapulted, if not to the second or third issue, perhaps the first issue that a lot of voters are going to vote on. Certainly evangelicals who have been in the Trump camp are now perhaps relishing the idea of a Supreme Court that could be deeply conservative for decades to come, depending upon the age and resume of whomever is nominated to fill Justice Bader Ginsburg's seat. Certainly I might perhaps break with the professor on one thing. Justice Ginsburg found sort of pop culture notoriety in her latter years, being nicknamed the notorious RBG, something that she sort of played up to. She became exposed to a younger generation of women, a younger generation of Americans. My 15-year-old, for instance, knows who she is because of that. So the impact here is going to be felt across generations, felt across the nation. I have another screen up in the background here, and they were slow rolling the number of cases that Justice Ginsburg, was involved with down the years. Everything from the juvenile death penalty to immigration cases. It's the loss here is massive.
The loss here absolutely is massive, and as you mentioned there, John, it'll be interesting to see. And Michael, that how the younger generation is going to respond as they are looking. I mean, she did have a connection with younger Americans, but also, a historic connection as well. Again, U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice Roberts saying the U.S. has, quote, lost a jurist of historic stature. So if we look to now those, of course, who know her and know her well, and we look to that future generation, again, in the midst of this election and that push for we need to change, John, we'll continue with you first, and then Michael, I'll bring you in. How do you think that could perhaps change things among young voters?
We know, for instance, Angie, that progressives are tremendously motivated. We see that in the polling data. Those who might have been on the fence about Joe Biden, those progressives who might have been lukewarm in the AOC wing of the party, they now may well become more fervent because they now realize what's at stake. Access to abortion, for instance, could well be on the line now, depending on the way the court swings with a future appointee. Conversely, this may, again, as I said a moment ago, energize Trump voters, evangelical voters, who now will want to see the president reelected for the very same reason, to ensure a conservative majority on the court for years to come. In the margins, a couple of percentage points here and there, that all matters. And if this is something that energizes, again, progressives for Joe Biden, that could well make a difference.
Michael, I've got about 30 seconds left. Your thoughts on where this could go?
Well, at this point, it's a little early to be certain, but I do think that both sides of this fight will be energized at some level. The question becomes whether or not Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell tries to push for a confirmation before the election.
Yeah, we'll keep a very close eye. We'll, of course, continue to follow reaction coming out of the United States. Michael Fauntroy, Associate Political Science Professor at Howard University. John Micek, Editor-in-Chief of the Pennsylvania Capital Star. Thank you to you both.